Hello everybody and welcome to Constantly In Flux. I'm your host, Oswald, and on today's show I would like to do something a little bit different. Let's get meta. I've posted a few shows now, and I wanted to sit down and take a moment to discuss what I've been doing, what I'm going to be doing, how things are going, that sort of thing. All of my shows are usually very heavily scripted and it takes many hours in advance. But for today's show I wanted to do something a little bit more off the cuff. Rather than essentially write my own press release for the channel, I'm just going to be talking to the mic, saying some sentences a few times over just to get a better take, and not really doing much more than that. Of course I'll do some editing to make sure it's a listenable experience, but other than that, I wanted to have this be a bit more of a raw conversational style video. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is what this channel actually is. So far I haven't really explained anything, I've just thrown up some videos and hi, I'm here! So, Constantly In Flux was a radio show that I originally started in 2016, 2017, one of the two. I can't remember the exact date. But it was a part of a community radio station as part of my university. Throughout my time in sixth form, I had many different people tell me that they really thought I should get into voice acting or something radio. When the opportunity came up during an open day, I thought I might as well give it a go. Originally, I didn't really know what to do with my radio show. I know that I like music, and I know that I like sharing music with people. So obviously I wanted to have something with both of those. But I wasn't given a direction or a particularly stringent set of restrictions to follow. I was given a 2-hour slot and said, here, fill it however you like. It's your show. And giving someone as indecisive as me both the role of presenter and producer was an interesting decision they made, but I'm glad they did. From that, I decided that each show could be its own little thing. I would spend 2 hours exploring a topic or a genre, and that was that. It didn't really matter what I'd done the week before, what I was going to do the week after. Having that variety would allow me to discuss the very many different genres and artists that I enjoy, and hopefully get to expand the boundaries of the music people know. I worked out how I wanted to do the show, but managing to actually do it to an acceptable level was an entirely different experience. Talking to a microphone and not getting a response is an interesting experience, and it took a little bit of getting used to. Even now, doing this again, where I am speaking just at the microphone, just rambling, is very different to doing the narration for a normal show. After a while, I decided to consolidate the branding for the show. I wanted to come up with a name and try to have a few different regular segments. The name, Constantly In Flux, was one that stuck throughout the rest of the show's history. And even now, obviously, I still enjoy it and as such I'm continuing that legacy. The segments were a bit more of a mess and I didn't really keep those up for particularly long. After a few years though, of course, I left the university and as such left the radio behind as well. But I missed it. I enjoy talking about music, I enjoy putting together these playlists, I enjoy just the entire experience really. It took quite a long time until I eventually got around to buying a nice microphone so I could start something up in that similar vein. At the end of January, I released the first episode 0, and for a lot of people that might be a bit confusing. Why 0? Don't things start at 1? And yes, normally, but I like to think of it as two different reasons. First, in computing, which is my main topic of interest, a lot of things start with the index 0. This means they'll start counting at 0, then 1, 2, 3, etc. So the fourth element of a list will be numbered 3. The other is that I thought of each of these episodes as being the pilot for the series. I want to explore how a series might look and to get some opinions from different people about what they thought on it and whether it would be worth continuing. Let's take a moment and talk about those series. So far, there have been 4 different series which I have produced in episode 04. First is the Artist Spotlight, where I'm going to explore the history of an artist both as a person and their discography. Not only do I want to explore which music has been made, I like to explore why that music has been made. One step down from that is the album spotlight, where I take a particular album and dissect it, exploring what makes it work and what I like about it. Sometimes what I don't like about it. Not all albums that I enjoy are going to be fantastic from one side to the other. And that's okay. Not every song has to be for me. There are very many people out there who are going to take songs that I don't like and say, oh, but that one's my favourite. And of course I recognise that. But on the other hand, if I'm going to be doing what's essentially an album review, I want to discuss my own specific opinions. It's why people are here after all. I don't know whether my opinions are necessarily worth very much in the larger scheme of things, but if you're listening to this, you obviously think something's going well. One step deeper in again from that is 6 Song Sundays, named almost entirely for the alliteration. But I wanted an opportunity to be able to speak about pretty much any different songs I want. There are lots of singles that I enjoy that I want to talk about, and restricting myself to only being able to talk about them as part of an album or as part of a larger artist discography is a lot more difficult, and I don't want that. 6 Song Sundays is the most condensed form of what I was trying to do with my old radio show. I want the opportunity to introduce people to new music just for music's sake. Of course, to make the shows more interesting, I'm going to be trying to fit them all together under a theme. For example, the 2 I've done already being bass guitars on Valentine's Day. But every now and then I might just do a, here's 6 songs, listen to these please. And finally, we have the Retrospective. The Retrospective is me going back to shows from my original radio days. Not only am I going to be exploring the playlist itself and presenting it again, really, but I want to explore the decisions I made at the time creating the playlist, and what things I might have done differently if I were given the chance now. A lot of these shows will be multiple years old, and not only will my personal listening tastes have evolved, so too would my opinions and how best to organise a playlist. So far with these shows, I have done one in each of the different series, as well as a second for 6 Song Sundays. Let's talk about those for a moment. The first artist spotlight was on Röyksopp. It was the first video that I'd created, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with anything. I made a lot of it up as I went along, which hasn't changed, let's be honest. And it probably won't change for quite some time, but that's okay. We'll work it out eventually. But I knew that I wanted to explore an artist that I love and have some knowledge on. Obviously, there was a lot of research that went into the creation of the script, and it ended up being a lot more work than I originally expected. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. After that, I went into depth of John Hopkins' album Immunity for the artist spotlight. Now, this was the most difficult to write of the show so far. It's essentially an album review, and I find something like that a lot more difficult to write than just exploring album histories. But Immunity is an album that I had particular opinions on as an album itself, rather than as a collection of songs. And that's something that I was able to focus on, in my opinion, and made for an okay video. I probably won't create as many album spotlights as any other series, just because of the difficulty, but I hope that each one will be worth considering within itself. After that, we have the 2 6 Song Sundays, the first on bass guitars, and the second on Valentine's Day. The bass guitars show, I felt, had very good music. There are songs there that I'd been planning to talk about on my old radio show, but just never got around to doing so. However, these songs were just good songs. It was very difficult to work out how to write about them in an interesting way. It's all very good having a playlist that has a good song choice and good flow, but then if you can't present it, people aren't going to be interested. Luckily, the Valentine's Day show was basically perfect as far as I'm concerned. Not only did I get to talk about 6 songs that I don't think most people would be familiar with, they all fit the theme, they flow together nicely, and I felt like I had actually interesting things to say about each of them. I'm hoping that future 6 Song Sundays will be a lot more like the Valentine's Day show in that respect. But obviously I'm hoping to also capture the essence of the bass guitar show, because of course I did enjoy the bass guitar show. And then finally, the Retrospective. The first episode of the Retrospective was all about classic rock, which was one of the first episodes of the radio show that I did originally. I thought, okay, I've got the entire playlist done already, it's going to be fine. Let's just be talking for maybe 15-20 minutes about an odd show. 5,200 words later, I have a 37-minute long episode. God, that was a lot more work than I expected. But I enjoyed it. Due to the extreme length of the process, I'm probably not going to be doing the retrospective very often. But as something to go back and look at my old playlist habits, to look at old music I enjoyed, still do enjoy of course. There's something very fun about that, and these will be shows that I do mostly for my own enjoyment, rather than expecting people to listen to me rambling about music for way too long. So what am I going to be doing for the future? First of all, the visual design of the show is going to be updated. If you watched the most recent 6 Song Sundays, you'll have noticed that I very slightly changed how I presented information. I added a little bit at the top which talked about which song I was discussing at the moment, and I feel like something like that will add a lot of clarity. These shows aren't entirely in an audio format, and as such I want the visuals to be interesting as well. I'm not a visual designer. A lot of visual things are very difficult for me to do, so I've been trying to work on a visual design that is both simple and effective. It's highly likely that there's going to be a large number of iterations before I'm happy with the final product, and you'll probably see that running through the videos. I'll change things as I go along. It's better to get something out into the world so people can comment on it, rather than just create thousands of different versions that no one will ever see. I do have a design which I think will be probably somewhere along the lines of where I'll settle for a while, and you'll be seeing that in next week's video. I also want to work on a channel trailer. Something that YouTube allows you to do is to put up a video for people to see when they first come to your channel. This would be the trailer that tells people what you're about, it shows off a little bit of what you're doing, that sort of thing. But honestly, I have no idea what to put. So that's something that's going to be coming soon, when I can work out how to make it interesting. If you have any ideas, please let me know, because I have none. Finally, I'm going to be looking a bit more into a few other series ideas. Whilst I enjoy talking about music, it doesn't really utilize the video format to its greatest extent, and as such, I want to find a way to talk about things that are a bit more visual. The first thing that comes to mind is video games. It's quite likely that I'll do at least one episode exploring a video game, maybe as a game, probably something to do with the music. But I love video games, and that'll be a fun one to talk about. It's highly likely that the video will be on Hades, as that game is superb. The visuals, the music, everything about it is just incredible, and it will make a great way to explore any potential formats. So look out for that at some point in the future. I do also want to expand 6 Song Sundays not only to be something that I do, but to have the opportunity for guests to feature. So I want to get them on the show so they can explore some songs that they like, maybe songs they've created, and just explore a little bit of a different dynamic to me talking to myself and narrating things. And for the moment, that's all I want to talk about. This is incredibly rambly as videos go, and I'm not really sorry for that, because if you didn't like it, you tuned out 5 minutes in at best. If you got this far through, why? It's a mess, but thank you. If you have any questions or suggestions on what you want to see, maybe different artists or music you want me to talk about, feel free to leave those in the comments. If you want to help out the channel whilst it's in the beginning stage, you can like, subscribe, put comments on things. You know, all the usual YouTuber stuff that I'm not going to mention in the main shows, because I don't want to. If this show doesn't go anywhere, and each episode is seen by 5 people total, I think I'm okay with that. So thank you everyone for listening. You have been listening to Constantly In Flux. Hope you've enjoyed today's talk, and I will see you in the next video, which I promise will be a lot better than this.